I play one on TV. I work with a lot of the people like that
Yeah.
who work in this area, and they all advise routine. Remember that routine is what we are comforted with. When we go to somebody's house who we know, we already know what to expect. So even going to school, they're going to see the people who they know that maybe they left in a trauma situation at school, and they maybe talked to some people on their cell phone or over the phone or texted back and forth. But when they go back to school, they're going to see the people who they know who are their comfort level, the teachers who they know who know how to deal with them on a daily basis. Routine is very important when you're trying to recover from trauma because it gives you things to not have to overanalyze and whether that's a good idea or not. If you move them someplace, right? If you drop them out of school, they lose every sense of normalcy in their life at a time when they don't have any choices about the things that are abnormal.
And important to watch your child for all those cues because every child is obviously different. Really appreciate having your experience and your insight into all this. Want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the investigation that's now unfolding. So we know local police are on the scene. FBI is coordinated with them. The governor has pledged all necessary support. The White House says that they are watching as well. A suspect is in custody. What happens now?
Yeah, now it's calm to chaos, right? We've got the chaos. We're bringing it to calm. All law enforcement, knows how to do this, knows what to do whenever there is a situation where you have, a massive, essentially a potential mass casualty, whether it's, like I said, a hurricane or a shooting. That what you want to do is determine the area that you have to be responsible for. And then you just parse out the responsibilities. Somebody will do the search. If there were lots of rounds discharged, the FBI, that might be a thing that the FBI does. They bring their evidence teams in and they do the search because they can, and it's easy for them. They have big teams that do it. And then they hand that information over to the investigative agency, in this case, the Bureau. So, and there'll also be an investigation. Somebody will be assigned to make sure all the interviews are done. Somebody will be assigned to make sure that, and that may be a different agency, for example. The prosecutor's office there'll be warrants that we will want to obtain for the suspect's house, for the suspect's vehicle, if the suspect has a vehicle, and any other location that might be familiar, from interviews on whether or not that suspect had access to it, including accessing phones and accessing email addresses. So that's all a process that just needs to take time. But we've done it before. We all know how to do it. And the chief investigative agency will work with all the other agencies to collect the evidence, do the interviews, and then draw a timeline back as far as they can on the suspect to determine when did he begin on this pathway to violence and what kinds of things, could we have done to intercede? And that's how we learn every time a shooting occurs, how to potentially help prevent the next one.
Our coverage of this story will continue right here on CBS News 24/7. After a short break, we're going to speak with a former top police official for a look at the early stages of this investigation.
These are the stories
1, 2, 3, go!
of We the People.
We're trying to generate our own hope.
It's a huge deal.
I'm enabling them to feel valued.
Eye on America, weeknights on the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell.
I had progressively fallen deeper into the world of online sports betting.
The risk is the rush.
What do you think is driving the spike in popularity?
I think it's legality.
If it's legal, I'm going to use it. There are ways to bet when you are 18.
We've created an epidemic of child gambling.
You can't walk into a male dormitory in a college campus without sports betting happening.
It's America's most neglected problem.
I used sports betting as a way to escape, when in reality, I'm choosing self-destruction. Whatever I had left, it was gone.
The purpose of the industry is to get you to play to extinction. And that means until all your money is gone.
Go to the ends of the earth. Reach for the stars.
Yeah, I just took off. That kind of thing.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
America Decides is your place for fact-based, unbiased reporting.
At the White House, at the Capitol, on the campaign trail.
What do you say to those in your party?
Any cracks in the Republican Party?
Our reporters and our anchors travel the country talking to voters like you
about the issues that matter most.
Immigration is really a factor right now
that are going to be driving your decisions.
What would you say to those who say, look, that's just democracy at work?
Listening to you and bringing your voice into our coverage.
I want a strong, proud America.
Is democracy on the ballot in 2024?
Let us help you decide.
America Decides. Stream our expanded one-hour program Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
exclusively on CBS News 24/7, the streaming home of CBS News.
People with developmental disabilities were once sequestered by the hundreds of thousands in institutions.
Many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower.
Disability activists have since torn down barriers blocking them from living at home or in the community.
We conclude that Title II of the ADA requires states to provide community-based treatment for persons with mental disabilities.
But of the 16,000 people who remain in state-operated institutions, half are in 5 states, and Illinois is one of them.
I don't want to live in the institution. It makes me feel discriminated against.
Do you think there are people living in institutions in Illinois that don't need to be living there?
Yeah, because they're proving it as soon as they get out.
We turn now to extreme weather across the South.
Flood watches are in effect across central and southern Texas today. Yesterday, streets in San Antonio were turned into rivers as floodwaters surrounded homes, businesses, and vehicles. In Galveston, people were told to immediately move to higher ground. And today, residents are being urged to avoid flooded roads with the threat of more rain expected throughout the week.
Meantime, more than 60 million people in the western U.S. are under heat alerts.
That's right. Temperatures could exceed 110 degrees in the southwest. Yesterday, Phoenix marked its 100th straight day with at least 100-degree temperatures.
But over here on the East Coast, many are seeing what you could describe as a pre-fall cool down and some storms. Storm specialist Greg Postel from our partners at the Weather Channel has your forecast. Hey there, Greg.
Well, good day, Lana and Errol. It is going to be kind of a messy day with rain throughout the evening and overnight hours tonight along the Gulf Coast. Scattered showers and thunderstorms, mostly offshore, but still some making their way inbound to parts of Louisiana and Texas and areas nearby. The background shaded in green is the threat for some flooding. So some of those rainmakers will be very efficient in producing some heavy rainfall rates, which could lead to flooding across the region. Animating this out as we go through the overnight and morning hours, a lot of heavy rain. Again, mostly over the water, but now starting to move northward inland as you go through tomorrow and tomorrow evening, all the way from Florida, the I-10 corridor through parts of Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, into Texas. Heads up, it is going to be more rainy than not. Maybe not every hour of the day, but definitely stormy times and producing a lot of rain across the region. You can see when you add it up, through Saturday, 3 to 5 inches of rain across parts of Louisiana, even locally higher amounts than that in Texas. What about another weather system that's coming into the northern tier of the United States? A September-like fall cold front is coming in, and it's not just going to impact many of us here in the Great Lakes like Chicago, Minneapolis, Madison, Wisconsin. No, this one's going to make it all the way to the south, and behind it, over the late week period, we are going to likely see temperatures 10 to 20 degrees below average, highs in the 60s behind it, and then that front will cross the East Coast and eventually cool everyone down, even along the I-95 corridor. Get updates to your forecast for the neighborhood of the Weather Channel on cable or live on your favorite TV streaming device. Lana and Errol, back to you.
All right, Greg, thanks very much.
Monsoon rainfall is bringing deadly flooding to India and Pakistan. Drone video shows roads completely flooded in western India. Officials say at least 33 people have been killed in India this week, while 5 children have died in Pakistan. More than 4,000 people in India have been evacuated. This is the last month of monsoon season in the area.
All right, we're going to take a very short break.
Stay with us. You're streaming CBS News 24/7. Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. We have updates for you on the story that we continue to cover out of Winder, Georgia. 4 people are dead. At least 9 others have reported injuries and have been taken to hospitals in the area after a shooting at a high school there. The suspect, at least one suspect, is in police custody, is also alive after some other reports to the contrary after the shooting in Apalachee High School. We have continuing coverage as we bring you all of the latest news.
Joining us now is Rodney Harrison. He's the former Suffolk County, New York Police Commissioner, and he's a CBS News law enforcement contributor. Rodney, what goes through your mind on a day like today, and when you see how things unfolded, how quickly the FBI was on the scene, and how quickly the governor also said he's making resources available? What does this look like from your point of view?
Well, I'm concerned. You have to take a deeper dive into the subject involved and find out a little bit more into what was the motive that caused him to go into the school and commit this act of violence. Was he a lone wolf? Was he part of a group? Is this something where we have to worry about surrounding schools and make sure those schools are evacuated as well? How did he come into the possession of his firearm? What's the makeup of his family? So there's a lot of work that the FBI and the local law enforcement need to do into looking into our subject involved and what was the motive to make sure that there's not any other incidents that could possibly happen out in that community.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigations has just put out a note that reports of additional shootings at nearby schools are false. As a former police commissioner, what do you make of people spreading misinformation about this? How are local and state authorities, not to mention the federal authorities that are assisting, trying to manage the situation right now?
So that's where the need of a priority of a press conference comes into play, so you can de-escalate any fears that are being put out there from other people on social media. I think it's important that the chief of police or the director of the FBI in that area get in front of some microphones, tell them exactly what's going on. We're hearing at this time that the subject is in custody, but we still need a lot more information. And once again, in fairness to them, there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. But the important thing is, what are you doing to de-escalate the situation to the surrounding residents that are inside that community?
Considering the suspect and the interview with the suspect will be crucial in understanding a motive, so too will it be important to speak to other students and witnesses and teachers from the school. At this moment, everyone is kind of just trying to get safe. Parents we saw abandoning their cars near the school so they can run to campus and just wrap their arms around their kids. How then do police get to interview witnesses? When does that happen? And what's your advice for parents who might just be shielding their child today and not wanting them to be back on campus tomorrow?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different analysts making suggestions what need to be done. We're sitting here and suggesting that the subject involved might have been a student. Was he somebody that graduated from that high school? Was he somebody that was bullied from somebody within that institution? So there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered. But I will say this: it's important for people that have any information about this shooter to feel comfortable to come forward and make sure they share any intelligence that they have to the law enforcement officials. That's going to help out with the investigation. That's going to help the investigators get down to the bottom of it to make sure that there are not any other threats that are going on within that area.
Ronnie, I'm still floored by the statistic that more than 90% of these types of shootings were reported to somebody else. The shooter told someone else before this happened. In your previous experience, does that information often make it to law enforcement authorities?
It's hard to put a statistical number on how many times information has gotten to law enforcement officials. I will say this. Anna shared a little bit about the red flag laws, and we had a lot of success in Suffolk County regarding recovering guns from residents of people who were homeowners that had guns because somebody in that family was going through some type of mental concern, illness, and made some type of threat that they're going to harm either themselves or somebody else. This is something that the federal government needs to take a deeper dive at and take a closer look at and make sure you're holding law enforcement departments accountable to put these red flag laws in place, because you will see a level of success of getting guns out of situations that should not be in a wrong household.
It's a good point you make, because while we know it's a high number of school shootings in which somebody was told, somebody was warned, it's hard to gauge how many times someone was warned and they intervened and prevented a school shooting. Can you think of a situation in which a tip from a relative or a fellow student or someone else in the community actually made a major difference?
Oh, a couple of times. Once again, I did 32 years in law enforcement, and I've had multiple incidents where people have shared information to their school safety officer, saying that, hey, listen, this individual here made threats that he was going to bring up a gun, and that got the ball rolling into conducting a deeper investigation into that person and retrieving that gun from that person's residence. Once again, it's this. Sometimes the student may not be the gun owner. It may be another family member that's underneath that roof that may be a gun owner, that we have to go in there and retrieve that firearm before a disaster occurs. So it's important for people to come forward before incidents like this occurs. Not to say that there were any mistakes here that might have happened, but it takes a lot of different people involved, administrators, teachers, anybody, that if they hear something, they need to share it with some type of law enforcement official so we can intervene and possibly stop or interdict another shooting incident like this one.
And Rodney, now they are looking at motive. The investigation continues from here. We appreciate all of your insights. Rodney Harrison, thank you.
Thank you.
The Barrow County Sheriff's Office is addressing the shooting at Apalachee High School in Winder, Georgia. Let's listen in.
I am Chris Hosey, Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and we wanted to come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the events that have taken place here today and what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Barrow County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern, or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school, who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers, and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers here at the school. The priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult and handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning when we talked with you and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the sheriff's office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation, again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. That can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff and just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted that will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today. Regardless of where they were in the school, this has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Barrow County Sheriff Judge Smith. Thank you.
Director, would you spell your name, please?
H-O-S-E-Y.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judge Smith at the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails. I don't know why it happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today. I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon. I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week as we cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you, we support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, if you're saying hate will not prevail in this community, are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
Well, shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me it's hateful.
Sheriff, can you talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter? Can you describe that to us? How did it go down? What exactly happened for us?
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him, and the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school, and was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it and how he got it into school.
Sheriff, have you been in touch at all with his parents or his family to learn more about what led up to these moments?
We have.
Any information you can share?
No.
What kind of weapon was it?
It seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir, I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
Sheriff, is the shooter speaking with the law enforcement now?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking? Is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
How is that video surveillance? How is that helping the sheriff?
It is helping our investigation.
Sheriff, is reports of threatening calls perhaps made to the school prior to the shooting? Is that accurate?
None that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals deceased, and was one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point, no.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm going to take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victims?
None that I'm aware of.
Was the shooter a student here at the school?
I know that you have a lot of questions about the student and that we mentioned, that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation, that we're looking into every aspect of that individual, his connection here at the school. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Can you tell us how many rounds were fired? He is a student. Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student, yes.
When can we expect the
We do not know how many rounds.
Director, has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here in the next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we will be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the on x.com?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
And you've been listening to Georgia law enforcement officers address the shooting at Apalachee High School. That shooting in Winder, Georgia. Officials confirm that 4 people were killed, 2 teachers and 2 students. They also confirmed the suspect is a 14-year-old student at the school, and he will be charged as an adult. Investigators have yet to identify the weapon used or determined how many rounds were fired. I'll be back at the top of the hour for America Decides. Thank you for watching. You're streaming CBS 24/7.
Washington is the seat of power. National security, foreign policy, global economics, every story comes through Washington in some way.